what's up YouTube? Today's video we're going to go into detail about the 3.20 release date. So a lot of people have been speculating or pretty much just asking themselves, when is 3.20 actually coming out? All we pretty much know is that there's going to be 2 to 4 events starting on November 4th. And they are going to be lasting around, they say, less than a week. So I can assume they're like 5-day events or something like that. So there's like 4 of them, let's say, max. And then they want to try to have at least 2 weeks before Christmas holidays for people to play as much as possible. So what does this actually mean? So there's actually 2 main dates that PoE can come out on. And that is December 2nd and December 9th. So if we actually look at the calendar, and let me bring over a calendar. So if we actually look at the calendar, we'll see that December 2nd and December 9th are Fridays, and PoE always comes out on Fridays, so we can be maximum degenerate over the weekend, play for 80 hours straight in one day, so we can get as much progress as possible, right? So as you can see here on the right, these are all of the dates that leagues have came out in the past. So if you don't remember, PoE has oftentimes delayed their expansion league either because of different games that are releasing, like Shadowlands and Cyberpunk, or because they just needed more time to work on it. So if you look all the way back in 2014, 2015, and these were the dark days of PoE, some of the worst leagues of all time. You thought Lake of Calandra League was bad. Have you heard of Talisman League? Or Torment League? Or Onslaught League? Or Prophecy League? Those were actually horrific leagues. So sometimes we need to think about it more big picture. PoE has been really, really bad in the past before. Or how about Bestiary League? One of the worst leagues I think that was ever made. But all jokes aside, you can see back in the day, it was December 12th, December 11th, and then December 8th. So it was always releasing around the first to second week of PoE. December 7th, December 13th. And then this was the one year, I think, that literally got delayed, right? Okay, so then it got delayed, and you can see it went to a January release cycle, and then it got delayed again to February, and now we're all the way full circle, and we're all the way back to December, because we've had 3 delays in a row, or every year, so now we're actually back to where it all started. And PoE has, or Chris has pretty much said that every single league is going to be an expansion league of sorts. There's always going to be a little bit of additions to the end game. For Lake of Calandra, I think Lake of Calandra was the Atlas Memories. And then Sentinel League was the Uber Bosses, and Arch Nemesis League was Searing Exarch, Eater of Worlds, and stuff like that. But you can see here, it was actually released on December 2nd before. So they do release it very, very early on in December sometimes. And yeah, so those are the 2 main dates. But you can see a majority of it is always in the second week of December. Now, why does this actually matter? So there are 2 potential dates, like I said. And these actually have huge ramifications. And it's mainly because it's actually going against one of the big releases of the year, known as World of Warcraft Dragonflight. And yeah, Dragonflight releases on November 28th. However, this date is kind of misleading. Now, I did find this interesting little bit. Now, this is from like an RMT site, or it's not really an RMT site, but it has like RMT advertisements. But this site is actually pretty funny because it actually presents the information really, really well. It's called like VHPG or something. But this site somehow has already deduced the dates somehow. And I do think that they're probably right. So the next season is PoE 3.20. The release date of PoE 3.20 is December 9th, 2022. GGG has been looking at its upcoming schedule for the next year and decided to move the date back from late November to early December. So pretty much they extrapolated this because they saw that they wanted to launch 2 weeks before Christmas to allow players the freest time to play the league during the holiday season. And it also gave developers some time. So you can see here, they pretty much extrapolated the date out. They said the Lake of Calandra is going to be ending on December 6th. And then the release date of PoE 3.20 will be on December 9th. And the release date of PoE 3.19 on consoles, the release date, or the Lake of Calandra will end. And this when the Lake of Calandra will actually start on consoles. But basically, the reason this date matters is more because WoW's release date is not really November 28th. Now, a lot of people mentioned to me, oh, WoW doesn't really have that much crossover with PoE. A lot of people say, oh, I don't even want to play Dragonflight. However, the case remains is that I think the WoW franchise has probably the biggest crossover of any franchise with PoE outside of Diablo. And mainly because a lot of people who played PoE were Diablo fans. I know personally for myself, I started playing Diablo 3. And I was like, wow, ARPGs are kind of cool. Let's try out PoE and give it a try. So you can say mostly everyone who plays PoE comes from Diablo. And if you actually played Diablo, you're probably a Blizzard fan at some point. And if you're a Blizzard fan, then there's pretty much almost 100% chance that you played World of Warcraft in the past. And I do know that WoW has been going downhill, whether it's bad actions within the company or bad game design. But I do think that Dragonflight, and this is not just my opinion, but a lot of content creators who have actually tested out Dragonflight in the beta, they say the talents are a lot cooler, that the Dragonflight is cooler, there's more character customization, even Mythic Plus, which I do think is one of the aspects of WoW that's kind of taken a forefront to Mythic Plus. Mythic rating has even allowed you to get better gear than Mythic rating. There's actually a rating for Mythic Plus dungeons, so there's a lot of stuff going for WoW. And I do think a lot of people will try it out. Now, a lot of my friends have also said, and this is the argument that people always make for Dragonflight over PoE, is that a WoW expansion comes out every 2 years. A PoE expansion comes out every 3 months, and it's like an 80% chance that the expansion is going to be shit. Or not shit, but not well off at the start. So you can already know that WoW has an enormous crossover with Dragonflight, pretty much because of what happened in Blight League. Now, I do know I showed this before, but I do think this warrants us to see it again, just to exactly kind of grasp like how big the crossover is between WoW and PoE. Now, WoW and PoE, like you can see here, if you can look at every single league, right? This is the peak concurrent players. Now, if we look at it here, what is the one league that stands out? You can clearly see Blight League is the league that, look at this, like it's just 74,000 to 114,000. Like you can see Blight League is at 74,000. Every single league is above 100K. And this is the league that actually caused GGG to actually end up delaying for other games like Cyberpunk, because they were just so afraid of what was going to happen with other games. And this is pretty much a league they can't really afford to mess up. So even though WoW releases on November 28th, you actually can't access any of the endgame stuff in WoW until December 12th. So for most hardcore players of WoW, and I do think the hardcore players of WoW have the most crossover with PoE, because the casual players of WoW are probably not going to be playing PoE, right? If you're a casual player in WoW, you might not even be the level cap of Dragonflight by the time PoE actually comes out. So most casual players are probably not going to be into a game as in-depth as PoE. So for the hardcore players, WoW essentially does not even start until December 12th. All you can do is pretty much level up your professions, do your Dungeon World Tour, level up your alts, and that's pretty much it. But there's no way you can really no-life the game. Maybe you can go find some farm spot or do some exploit gold farm before it gets fixed or something like that. But there's no like rat race to really play Dragonflight at launch like crazy. Now, what this means is 3.20 release date is always comes out on Friday, like I said. So December 2nd versus December 9th. Now, December 9th is probably the most possible date. If I had to put money on it and bet money, I would definitely bet that December 9th is going to be the date. However, I do implore GGG, maybe if they see this video, I do know that Bex liked a reply to my tweet. And it's kind of funny, right? I'm trying to make a serious tweet right here, and people are just memeing on me like, release the new PoE League on 12.2 instead of 12.9 so you can play PoE for like 10 days before M+ / Mythic raids. Now, this person over here, Gucci Prada, or Pradas, says, but those dates are 7 months apart. Now, what does it mean when it's 7 months apart? So apparently, the conventional thing, not in America, is if I put 12.2, it means it's February of 2012, and this is September of 2012. But here in my land, it is December 2nd and December 9th. And the funny thing is that actually, I think Bex ended up liking this thing. So maybe she knows that December 2nd could potentially be a better date. Now, December 2nd is mainly just a better date for people who are hardcore WoW players and PoE players. Like, it's mainly something that helps people out who are doing like world first ratings. So for Ben and I'm Exile, it would be pretty beneficial because that would actually allow them to have 10 days to play PoE before they have to go into full degen mode for world first rating. And it also allows a lot of other people who intend to play both games. And I do think PoE is around like a 10-day game or a week-long game for really hardcore players and how fast they actually progress. But in the end, that might just be a more selfish thing for people who actually do play both games. I don't know how player retention would actually shape up to be. Like, if it released on December 2nd, I do think that PoE would probably have a really, really sharp drop in player base after 10 days. And it's very likely that a lot of casual players who might check out PoE are going to be too into leveling up their character in WoW. So maybe December 9th is the better release date, but it's just an interesting thing to think about. But I do think that maybe December 2nd would also give GGG a little bit more time to implement more bug fixes and inevitable changes to the league mechanic, Arch Nemesis, or tuning up the loot. Because as we all know, the league never really launches in a fully bug-free state. Now, in the end, I might just be completely wrong. I could literally be talking out of my butt or ass, and there's no hype for Dragonflight. The Dragonflight could be a complete nothing burger. No one could actually be playing Dragonflight that actually plays PoE. So let me know down in the comments below if you're actually even intending to play WoW and PoE, and if you had to choose what you would actually choose, because I do think it's pretty important, right? Because I do want PoE 3.20 to do well. I really hope that it does well. I think having a lot of bad leaks consecutively is not good for PoE 2's release date. I think it does sour a little bit of the hype. But it's very possible that there is no crossover between retail WoW and PoE. I don't think PoE has gone head-to-head against a retail WoW expansion in 2 release cycles, purely because it hasn't really lined up that way in the past. This is probably the first time in a very, very, very long time that I actually went back and looked at it. It has not actually gone head-to-head with a WoW release date that's this close, that's retail. But at this point, I think it's more important for GGG to deliver a great expansion than trying to plan around any game releases. I actually think in the future, especially with Diablo 4 coming out next year in probably May or October, it's very likely that PoE will always have to keep the season launch dates for D4 in mind. And it's kind of interesting to see how will GGG actually deal with it. Will they actually launch at the same time, or will they space it out a little bit so that everyone can have a little bit of the pie? So right here is the kind of the launch plan for Dragonflight. So October 25th is pre-patch where they launched the new talent trees. Look at this talent tree. It looks pretty nice. Then this is a new race that you can play on November 15th. Game comes out on November 28th. And the PoE launches on December 2nd. You would have, 5 days to level up your character, which should be more than enough. And then December 12th and 13th is when the raids open. So if PoE actually launched on December 9th, you'll pretty much only be able to play PoE for 2 to 3 days before you want to hop into Mythic Plus or do your Mythic raids, right? So, interesting case. But I do think that PoE will come out on December 9th, and I do think that it will create a problem for hardcore players of PoE and WoW. But thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know down in the comments below what release date you think it will be, December 2nd or December 9th. And if you even intend to play WoW, or if there's actually another game that's coming out that I'm oblivious to. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more Mirrors, Exalted Orbs, and Divines than me. And see you next time. Bye.